Tonight, a significant first step in repairing Canada-U.S. ties. The long-awaited call between the Prime Minister and the President.
The call was both cordial and focused on making progress.
I've always loved Canada, and we had a very good conversation with the Prime Minister.
What triggered a softened stance from Donald Trump, and will Canada be spared from steep tariffs? Also breaking down the policy pledges in the race to Parliament Hill.
A mass trafficker of these drugs is a mass murderer.
Banning corporations from buying affordable homes.
How the tidal wave of tariffs could hit boat builders. Utter devastation the moment a massive earthquake shook Thailand and Myanmar. Plus, an historic city's hopes for the future. Why threats from the past may be shaping voter priorities in Quebec City.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the state of Canada-U.S. relations after that pivotal first phone call between Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Donald Trump. A significant step with a shift in tone south of the border. Both leaders coming off that call with positive takes. CTV's Judy Trin on why it's being referred to as a constructive conversation.
President Trump and I...
In front of containers of goods at risk in a trade war, Prime Minister Mark Carney told reporters his first call with President Donald Trump was respectful.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments. The spirit of the call was both cordial and focused on making progress.
You know, I've always loved Canada, and we had a very good conversation with the Prime Minister. And they've got an election going on, so we're going to meet after the election.
The tone was very different than how the president treated Carney's predecessor.
I call him Governor Trudeau.
Still, this call occurred 2 weeks after Carney was sworn in and 1 day after Trump imposed 25% tariffs on autos, adding to the duties he already imposed on steel and aluminum.
The president did not indicate pulling back on the tariffs.
Instead, more levies are expected on April 2nd when the White House rolls out worldwide reciprocal tariffs. A readout of the call stated that the Prime Minister informed the President that the government would respond by implementing retaliatory tariffs, but Carney was reluctant to say it out loud. You were clear to the President that you are going to retaliate, and what was his reaction?
You've seen my statement. I'll leave it at that.
The Conservative leader who wants Carney's job also tempered his tone.
I was glad to learn that the President and Prime Minister spoke today, and like all Canadians, I hope they had a successful talk.
Canada has already struck back with counter tariffs on $60 billion of U.S. goods. After his call with Trump, Carney briefed provincial leaders on what further action could be taken.
I urged the Prime Minister to work with our allies around the world. The President is attacking countries everywhere right now.
But Carney did say the two leaders agreed on the need to start comprehensive negotiations on a new economic and security relationship between the two countries. For Canada, that means a relationship less reliant on the United States. Judy Trin, CTV News, Montreal.
Tariffs and the relationship between Canada and the U.S., the focal point of a meeting today between Canadian mayors and their American counterparts.
We remain hopeful that our voices will be heard.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow among the Canadian delegation at a 3-hour meeting in Washington with their American and Mexican cohorts, their shared message, and the trade war now. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre remained focused on policy announcements and not U.S. tariffs as he wrapped the week pitching an expansion of his previously published Tough on Crime platform. CTV's Mike LeCouture on the pledge to impose life sentences for trafficking.
Beneath the beauty of many West Coast cities like Nanaimo is an ugly truth. British Columbia has a drug problem.
I can tell you it's the biggest single source of complaint, that whole issue around the street disorder that relates back to the mental health addictions.
Leonard Krog believes provinces need to step up, and he'd like to see the federal government help with the national crisis around opioid addiction.
Pour le trafic de drogue et d'armes illégales.
Friday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre reiterated his commitment to bringing in life sentences for anyone convicted of trafficking more than 40 milligrams of fentanyl. But experts in drug policy don't think stiffer sentences will help.
I can say with some confidence that it will not result in less fentanyl in our communities, and more importantly, it will not result in fewer fentanyl-related deaths.
Poilievre also promised to close down safe consumption sites and instead put that money into treatment options.
Detox, counseling, group therapy, physical exercise, yoga, sweat lodges for First Nations, job placement and housing to get people off the street, out of the tents, into homes.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is taking a different tactic, speaking instead about stopping the drug and its precursors from coming into Canada.
We want to strengthen our borders and stop the flow of material from getting into our country in the first place, to save lives before someone dies tragically to fentanyl.
But Dr. Malloy doesn't think any of the federal parties are proposing solutions that get to the root of the problem.
I would like to see an approach based in public health, where we abandon those failed approaches and we look to see what we can do using healthcare, using human rights, and using compassion.
The mayor of Nanaimo says he was shocked the fentanyl crisis wasn't a bigger issue in the last federal election, and he wishes it was in this one. Heather?
Mike, thanks. The NDP returned to Toronto for the second time this week to reiterate a promise to solve Canada's housing crisis. Leader Jagmeet Singh says if elected, he will ban corporate landlords from buying affordable homes. CTV's Rachel Aiello on the strategy behind the policy stance.
Hi. In downtown Toronto today, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced how he'd crack down on corporate landlords. But it was largely a rehashing of promises his party has already made. Should you not be spending every single day unveiling new ideas?
People need to know the way we're going to attack the serious challenge we're up against, and to have the attention of a campaign to highlight something as important as banning corporations from buying affordable homes is something really important. It's something that no one else is going to talk about. You're not going to hear Mark Carney talk about it.
Backed by the same woman he featured in a Tuesday campaign stop, Singh announced a trio of renter-centric policies, the first leader to focus on this demographic during the campaign. He said the NDP would ban corporations from buying up affordable rental buildings, cut off corporate landlords from certain tax treatments, and boost a fund that helps nonprofits purchase affordable apartments. The NDP asserted the details of these pledges were new to the campaign and part of their effort to focus on housing. But policy isn't the only part of the NDP's campaign that is being recycled. Singh's campaign slogan, "In it for you," is the same one he used during the 2019 federal election.
He's an excellent campaigner. He is a very likable person. He does not seem to be able to punch through in the media dialogue at all at the moment.
For the first time in this election campaign, Singh boarded his campaign plane to fly back to Ottawa before heading to British Columbia tomorrow. Now, as you can see, unlike the Liberals and Conservatives, the NDP have opted not to wrap their plane in party branding, saying they've chosen to spend that money elsewhere. Heather?
All right, Rachel, thank you. It's not just the big picture issues that we're keeping an eye on during this election campaign. We're also putting the spotlight on matters close to home, right across Canada.
Coming up on CTV National News. The people of Quebec City prepare for a historic federal election.
We need to be allies. We're neighboring countries.
What traditional campaign issues are off the table and what voters are talking about.
Je voulais que ce soit M. Carney qui rentre.
Tonight on CTV National News and ctvnews.ca.
A court injunction will now keep 10 safe consumption sites across Ontario open until a charter challenge can be heard. The sites were slated to close in a matter of days after the province introduced new rules banning them from operating within 200 meters of schools and daycares. The charter challenge says drug users' lives are routinely saved at the sites and warned people will die if the sites are closed down. The province argued the new law is necessary to protect the public from violence and disorder. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her fireside chat with a controversial right-wing American podcast host was meaningful and that she had a great time. Smith posted this photo of her with Ben Shapiro at the event in Florida Wednesday night. She says they spoke about the Canada-U.S. trade war, including the benefits of a tariff-free relationship. The Premier's attendance has come under fire, particularly since the gala was organized by a conservative company known for its polarizing views on climate change and slavery. Before the event, Alberta's NDP leader, Naheed Nenshi, said it would be despicable for her to attend. Another foreign trip causing plenty of controversy, this one by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, who dropped in uninvited to Greenland. A visit that comes as his administration continues to call for the U.S. to take over the Danish territory. CTV's Heather Wright now with the chilly reception.
With the temperature hovering around -20, the U.S. Vice President and his wife touched down in Greenland today.
How we doing? It's cold as here. Nobody told me.
Visiting an American military base amid a growing push by Donald Trump to take over the territory.
I think we'll go as far as we have to go. We need Greenland.
Greenland is an autonomous territory that is part of Denmark, with many uninterested in joining the United States.
We don't want you here.
People are getting more worried. I'm getting more worried. Is he actually going to take over Greenland?
Second Lady Usha Vance was scheduled to come on this trip alone, billed as a way to promote cultural ties. But as criticism to the visit grew, officials were forced to scale back, with the Danish government angry the original itinerary was planned without their consultation. And so the group remained at the military outpost, far from any towns where protests had been planned. Still, Vance did not tone down his remarks.
Denmark has not kept pace in devoting the resources necessary to keep this base, to keep our troops, and in my view, to keep the people of Greenland safe from a lot of very aggressive incursions from Russia, from China, and from other nations.
But experts say it's the United States that's being aggressive, acting like the authoritative states it claims to be protecting Greenland from.
Very aggressive, oppressive, using force to do what they want. And I'm sure the Greenlandish people are feeling the same way as Canadians are.
Asked about Trump's plans for Greenland, Russian President Vladimir Putin did not criticize them. Instead, he said the American desire to annex the island has, quote, deep historical roots. Heather.
CTV's Heather Wright. Thank you. Hundreds of people are dead, buildings flattened, and dozens missing following a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake that rocked Thailand and Myanmar. This cell phone video captures the moment the quake triggered the collapse of a 33-story skyscraper under construction in Bangkok, more than 1,300 kilometers from the epicenter. At least 10 people were killed and more than 100 people are missing from the collapse. Thai authorities have declared a state of emergency. The quake also caused a rooftop pool to send water pouring down a Bangkok hotel. And more than 150 people were killed and 700 injured in Myanmar. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed in seconds. Government officials have declared a state of emergency in many areas as people continue to feel aftershocks. The quake could be felt in India and China. Back here in Canada, what's known as an Alberta clipper is bringing heavy snow, strong winds, freezing rain, and frigid temperatures to parts of that province. About 30 centimeters of snow fell in Edmonton and the surrounding areas, causing road closures and treacherous driving conditions. The RCMP is reporting 147 collisions so far. The weather system is also wreaking havoc in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but the snow is expected to taper off in the coming days. Parts of Ontario, though, are in for a treacherous weekend with a major ice storm on the radar for the Toronto area. Coming up, preparing for rough waters ahead.
We're fighters. We can go out, we can manage. We always have through hard times.
How maritime boat builders are hoping to weather the Tariff storm. Plus, the high price of fueling up. What's driving a surge in prices? There is more bad news tonight for employees of Canada's oldest retailer. Hudson's Bay says that 200 of its corporate staff will be let go next week. The positions will be eliminated as of April 4th as part of the restructuring process now underway. The cuts come as the Bay undergoes the liquidation of all but 6 of its properties across Canada after filing for creditor protection. As tariffs dominate headlines, it's no surprise they're all the talk in maritime fishing communities where people stand to be hard hit both by Chinese and American tariffs. And it's having an impact on the boat building industry. CTV's Sarah Plowman on how people are weathering the storm.
All is calm in a place where lobster boats dot driveways like cars, where disaster at sea lives in the collective memory. Here, people brace for the next wave of tariffs.
We have a situation, and we have to deal with it as calmly as we can. And see what happens.
As seafood is hit by China's 25% tariff, the U.S. may do the same. Uncertainty spills from the wharves to the boatyard, where boat builders are exposed to tariffs too.
You know, we're fighters. We can go out, we can manage. We always have through hard times, and one way or another, we'll figure it out.
Demand had already slowed, but this adds another hurdle. Most of these boat parts come from the U.S.
All our electrical components, probably our batteries.
And so do half of Corey Guimond's customers who are holding back.
Buyers are hesitant to purchase, not wanting to have to pay the 25% extra.
Then there's Canadian fishermen, cautious to spend with so much at stake and so much unknown.
Well, we have to be careful in what we decide to do, because we don't know what's going to happen.
The industry notes Canada's first round of retaliatory tariffs didn't have a massive impact on boat building,
but they're expected to have a bigger impact moving forward. Those who are building with steel and aluminum are feeling more of an impact from it.
Shipyard owners are trying to think differently.
We work a little harder and we get up earlier to try to figure out exactly what we need to do to keep our shipyard going and keep our people employed and make it work.
So people here wait to see if these trade tides turn, preparing like they do every storm, preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Escuminac, New Brunswick.
Still ahead, the fury over filling up, where gas prices just spiked and what's causing the pain at the pump. Drivers in Atlantic Canada feeling a little more pain at the pump as prices increased overnight for both gas and diesel. It should come down again once the consumer portion of the federal carbon tax goes away. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on just how much relief that might bring.
A nasty Friday morning jolt at the gas and diesel pumps.
Gonna buy it no matter what. They can put it up $10, you're still gonna buy it.
Anger, sad, just disappointed.
In Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and most areas of Newfoundland and Labrador, gas prices jumped roughly 4 cents a litre. Prince Edward Island saw a price increase of 6.9 cents.
Everyone except Manitoba and Alberta, who saw a price rise the week before. Every other province across Canada is up.
The national average price for gas compared to March of 2024 has dropped 5 cents, but it's 10 to 15 cents more expensive per litre in some areas of Atlantic Canada. Gas analyst Patrick DeHaan says that's mostly been brought on by supply chain issues.
Meaning that when refinery maintenance happens in one area, that refinery may supply more of the gasoline that is in that community.
Summer gas is also more expensive based on demand and the cost of production at refineries to remove dangerous compounds. But according to DeHaan, fuel savings are on the horizon because the consumer carbon tax will soon be gone.
I would expect at least a 15-cent a liter drop fairly quickly after April 1st.
Because of the trade war, travel experts are anticipating a slowdown in travel tourism from Canada to the U.S. That could mean more Canadians will spend their vacation money this summer driving, not flying. Dalhousie University professor Lauren Sheehan specializes in tourism and destination management.
So maybe not going to the far-flung international destination, maybe not even going all the way across Canada, but taking a shorter regional trip.
Sheehan believes many Canadians will measure their vacation spending capacity based on gas prices, especially if they drop after some recent spikes. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Team Canada may be facing legal fallout after a serious injury to soccer star Alphonso Davies. Davies tore a ligament in his right knee during Sunday's third-place match against the U.S. in the Nations League tournament. Now his professional team is threatening legal action, saying Canadian officials did not provide appropriate care after the injury. Still ahead, a place steeped in Canadian history. We hear from voters now squarely focused on the future. Through this election campaign, we'll be taking you to communities big and small, right across the country, to hear what you want from our next government. Tonight, our destination is the cobblestone streets of Quebec City, where for many voters, concerns of a distant past are now back on the agenda. CTV's Geneviève Boschman here's what's on their minds.
Quebec is a fortified city rich with more than 400 years of history. Its ramparts encircling the old town long ago played a part in holding off an invasion during the American Revolution.
J'ai confiance, mais il y a de l'inquiétude.
Many here in the seat of the provincial government say they never imagined threats of annexation would be anything but part of a distant past. But they see this as the top priority for the next Prime Minister. We drop by an iconic restaurant in old Quebec, La Bûche.
La poutine.
It serves up traditional Quebec fare. Yes, including poutine with a modern twist.
We wanted to honor our grandma's cuisine in the Sugar Shack ambience.
Quebec City is a tourism hub.
What did you want to see here?
The history.
8-year-old Asher and his parents are from New York. In fact, seated at most tables on this weekday afternoon, Americans.
I've heard a little bit about your elections. To be honest, I've kind of been sheltering myself from politics in general just because it's very negative at the moment.
People here say they're proud to show off the local traditions, the culture to the many American tourists who come here each year. But they say right now they're spending a lot more time talking about politics.
C'est Québec, hein? Québec, là,
Sisters Nancy and Jocelyn Tanguay say issues like Quebec nationalism are pretty much off the table. Their bond to Canada is stronger.
Tout le temps de la faute des autres.
They say they want a leader who doesn't always use negative messaging, who inspires confidence. The economy is clearly top of mind, and here many hope there's an appetite for tourism.
Quebec City is the most beautiful city in Canada, so.
Geneviève Boschman, CTV News, Quebec City.
That is our newscast for this Friday night. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. I'm Heather Butts. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.